Do you just go, or is he gonna let us know?
What's that?
Is he gonna let us know when they're on?
Yep,
Okay.
he said just 10 seconds to do that.
Oh, okay.
We did a song very soon. Should work, ready to go?
I'm good.
All right, 6 o'clock, and I'll call the meeting to order. Start with pledge of allegiance.
He said just 10 seconds.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. We should do on roll call. So, no public comment tonight, so we will move on to approval of the consent agenda. I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda. All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion?
Maybe just to extend a word of thanks to Diane Helene for her, how many years service for the previous school? Gotta be 20 plus, 30 plus, wow, that's pretty amazing.
Yep.
I will do that, thank you.
Yeah,
Yep. Anything else? Hearing none. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Communications report. Denise has hers in there. And if you have any questions, you can email her or ask Jim. And with that, Jim, you got a presentation.
Alright, you guys okay with this? I was both pretty sure today that each year we're supposed to do the state high school presentation. It's identical as last year, and I thought I was gonna make the sit here for 25 minutes of the PowerPoint. You guys okay with it? Maybe we'll do that PowerPoint every other year, but I said that should be that okay with you guys?
What's up?
Students reach middle school. Their families have already spent an incredible amount of time, energy, and resources on their child's sports experiences.
Private coaches, tryouts, travel tournaments, and increasing pressure to specialize in a single sport at an early age.
The reality is less than 3% of our athletes will ever want to play college. Less than 1% of our athletes will ever play professional. This means 97% of the students will have a terminal experience. When they graduate, their competitive playing days are over. So what's the purpose?
The purpose is the healing growth and development of our students and connecting them to caring adults in their learning community.
For this to happen, it takes leadership and a community aligned around this purpose.
The purpose of a caring adult in students' lives has never been more important. Students face an incredible amount of pressure. There's peer pressure, social pressure, and academic pressure, pressure to perform on the playing field or in the arts area. And what that's resulting in is a mental health crisis where kids are facing anxiety, depression. There's a study called Hardwired to Connect that identifies 3 fundamental needs that every human being has. They need to belong, they need to have some type of moral development. And we define moral as relationships to other people. And then that base community, which is really being held accountable to a set of expectations and boundaries. Athletic and activity programs really provide a caring community for students. It's a place for them to be connected. It's takes leadership to intentionally create connections and to create a culture that supports students in a caring community.
My purpose statement is to coach to create a love of the game and foster community and growth among our student athletes.
Shift your weight forward and backward. Good.
We do is a front-facing public person that's really leading the charge for all of the things that happen within that program that again are so beneficial to the student.
A strong activities director, athletic director is going to have the pulse of their school, is going to influence and impact the students through others and create that experience that we're looking for all kids.
In my particular role as the activities director, I call it leading from the middle up. I need to work with my principal and my superintendent, and I need to work with my school board to understand what purpose-based activities are, what they look like, what they should feel like with our student athletes. And then I need to train coaches, work with athletes, work with our student body.
The value of a strong activities director for the entire system is something that I can't put a price tag on with board members. And it's important for school board members to understand the purpose of our activities and athletic programs so that they remember their role in supporting our work and supporting our staff and in supporting our activities director and
There you go. We are really here to change the art of every athlete. I think the most important thing I do is connect students to each other, connect students to the school day, connect students to meaningful adults.
We want to win a state tournament. We want to have a winning record. But what's most important than that is having a winning culture.
It's all about the student experience. That doesn't necessarily equate to winning. That equates to being able to walk away and say, I had fun, I got better, I did the best that I could, I want to continue, I know more about myself, and I'm more prepared for whatever might come my way.
We have to align our communities in order for athletic administrators and coaches to be supported.
Our school board knows that we're about more than just men's classes, that we're part of the education program, part of the education system. It's great to be able to show up at work every day, knowing that you're supported by your school board, your superintendent, your principal, and that you have the ability to support your coaches, athletes, participants, and their families. It's very important that you have all of those important stakeholders in alignment and that they understand what the common language is and what it means to have a successful experience.
My purpose as a captain is to use the sport of baseball to help teach life lessons that will help people down the road.
The adults are purposeful and deliberate about engaging with students about something bigger than themselves. I may do it in my social studies classroom by teaching history, and I may then later do it in my role as the softball coach. But the experience of the kids with that alignment that is tied through is that we are here to impact their life in a positive way.
There's no more rewarding feeling for me as an activities director to hear them say that they became a better person through their participation in our activities.
I think the greatest thing that a school board can do is to define success, to publicly state that here's how we are going to define success within our school community. Are we growing and developing better people? Are we modeling the kind of character that we want our students to leave our school communities with and go into the world with? Awareness is critical. We have to be aware of the purpose of why sports are part of our school community.
And finally, not only do we have to hold our coaches accountable, we have to hold our school communities accountable to the transformative power of what sport can be. And that is connecting students to caring adults in their learning community.
All right, well, again, I think the PowerPoint deck is just probably one of the most important highlights of that is clubs are such a big thing nowadays. The ultimate clubs are there, and they're taking the best athletes they are in multiple communities, and they're traveling all over the state, sometimes all over the country. And then NISA does that, which is 7th grade, and they spent $7,000 for the Kansas Elite volleyball program at the weekend. There's a little girl that travels to Florida and traveling, they do 5-6 day trips. And again, it is win that win. And they practice 3 or 4 nights a week with a 6th grader. You know, they're salvation house. You know, and I think that's the most important thing. High school football, our coaches are going to coach to win, our players are going to play to win. It's not important. That's always your goal, to train to win the state championship. But the educational-based athletics, you know, are so much more than that. The adults are trying to help form and the relationships they build, and the things they learn through being part of sports, or activities, I should say, if not sports. And that's what, again, the Minnesota State High School really emphasizes. There's so much more you have to do starting to do something that you want to play school, that's a game, but of what you're learning about teamwork and being part of the movement, all those other skills are beneficial. Are there any questions? All right. I have weekly Zoom meetings with the State High School League, and last week there were 338 days out of the week, an hour every Thursday. And it's pretty good. They're trying to keep us up to date as much as we can, but they kind of sit there and wait and see what the governor says, and then they come up with a plan pretty quickly and so on. So a few things that have come about is that they work really hard trying to help me safely return to different activities, weight room, playing baseball and softball outside, inside activities. And one of the things that really pointed out is we have to keep in mind as we come back and as we continue to work towards having activities, sporting events, practices, and all this, the most important thing is safety. We don't want all of a sudden one in the weight room to get COVID-19 and now everybody in there. It's next year, but there's going to be protocols that we're working on, and it's changing almost daily for the next 2 weeks. We're trying to figure out what we're going to do. I did order some thermometers. We're actually going to take non-touch temperatures of kids. Like when you open the weight room, everybody's going to get the temperature taken before they come in. We do the same thing for drivers training students. And if anybody has a fever, then not to have them in there. And then we're also going to keep a very detailed log of who's working out and doing an activity day by day. That way, if someone does turn out to be infected, everybody on the list has to be contacted. So again, those things are changing all the time. That's one of the things we're working on at this point. The State High School leads are giving us direction. They're not even they've been pointing out that everybody has to do, everybody's kind of working on their own plans, but they're giving direction for it. So we're going to continue to work on social distancing. Right now, they are allowing us to start June 15th, and again, that changes on the day. We usually start summer workouts where our coaches can work out them starting June 1st. We move it back 2 weeks. The kids aren't going to lose a lot of time at this point because they extended it the first week in August, where normally it's done July 30th. And they moved it to like August 6th or 7th at that point. They also have, there's always a week around 4th of July that they go out with coaches can't be contact. They moved that down to 3 specific days that I have in the report. So they're only going to be shorted 2-3 days at this point if it continues. So some of the regulations, we're supposed to follow social distancing, not have pods or groups of people of more than 10 working together. And at this point, we're not supposed to have any sharing of equipment. So if they're going to have a volleyball workout, they can't get involved with each other. It's going to be individual drills. They'll each have their own volleyball and have to be things like that. There's some things changed in the baseball and softball. Again, we'll find out more on Thursday. Everything is going to be cleaned afterwards. So the ball's being sprayed, the weight equipment being sprayed with the disinfectant, things like that. That's part of the protocols put in place. And each kid that comes inside the temperature, we're going to probably do a health questionnaire. Like 5 or 6 questions we're going to ask. Have you traveled out of state? Have you had a fever, cough, or anything like that? We do that standard questionnaire every single day. Do our best to keep safe. And one more thing to talk about, it's important for everybody to keep an open mind and what's equal and what's fair are 2 different things. We may not be able to do things exactly the same. If we can allow people to bump tennis courts and play tennis, we can't put the rest of it together better than wrestling. Maybe you can't put 30 girls in the gym and play volleyball because that's not the same as putting 12 people out on a tennis court moving along as they one another. So those situations might be fair, they just aren't fully equal, so it's important to remember that those two words could be different. Well, depending on the activity, depending on the physical contact, and stuff like that. I wanted to touch on this out-of-state competitions. There are a lot of people arranging things to go South Dakota and other states right now that don't have the same regulations that Minnesota has. For Minnesota, if you're part of the Minnesota State High School League, which Great has been, and we have to also abide by the Minnesota State High School League rules, and they have to also abide by our government's laws, So the governor's executive order, our coaches have to abide by them. So at this point, the executive order, I believe, says we may not have competitions. So we can have a team, maybe a basketball team or baseball team goes to South Dakota to participate, but the Cranes coaches may not host them. And that have anything to do with that. Otherwise, they're going against what the executive order is, which Minnesota State has been followed. We can't stop the kids from doing it, and we can't stop the parent coaching them. But our coaches still have to abide by what Minnesota rules and laws. Any questions on that? And then, I think I covered everything on the agenda, so instead I came and you guys have questions. Something doesn't make sense.
Just have a comment to share. One thing that we found out is that if, like, for instance, if the district does the healthcare screening, like the temps, and put the kids' names down and then the temperature by that is considered health data and falls under HIPAA then. And so a lot of organizations are doing self-screening. Everybody gets their own little sheet. You take it with you. You've got it. You write your temp down, and then somebody spot checks you, because then where does it get stored? You can't have one page with everybody's name and temp on it just because of confidentiality. So just, I didn't know if that was something
we haven't worked when we talk about that, and because they are recommended when we take the temperatures, we're recommended just to put the past, not put the actual details what the temperature was, and that one person is in charge of it. So school could have trainers, they're doing all the record keeping that are seeing it, and no, we're not gonna be able to have all kinds of different people. So we're still kind of working through that, but yes, it's something we talk about. We also have the conference right after that state high school meeting. But thank you.
Jim, I was also going to add, and just for everybody's information, we have our school nurse working on the preparedness plans for each kind of different activity, whether it's the weight room or outside. So that should be coming by the end of the week.
And I talked to Kylie about too, so that's great.
You had number 4 on your report, summer school facility.
Well, that was, I should put the school facility that was about disinfected.
Oh,
that you
gotcha.
can use in gymnasium, use in school facilities. Yeah, and it's not summer school. If there's any of that, then we'll Melissa. So, all right, well, thank you.
All right, thanks, Jim. Judd, can you hear us yet?
Yes, good evening. Apologies for maybe not showing up quite on time. Both Melissa and I looked like we got on about 6:11, so we missed the first 11 minutes. So, thank you very much for your time tonight. Just a few things to share with you. I did get another parent email, just very much praising a couple of teachers. I just wanted to pass that along to you that we still have plenty of good comments coming from parents. Distance learning, we had our final drop-off days, final drop-off days, so you used to call them pickup days. Our final drop-off days went really well. We had 2 days at each site, and I just want to make sure that I acknowledge all the effort that the secretaries, custodials, and drivers, the effort that they put into it, and also Jim for the support he provided also. On the role of staffing at the elementary levels, we do have the new hires that I think we had 3rd grade, 6th grade, music, and then I reposted for a preschool position today. And then just different things going on in my world as we progress through the summer. Currently working on finalizing class list, trying to get version 1 of our schedule completed, and prepping for the uncertainty of fall. And so that's a lot of our energy and time is being put into just trying to figure out any possible things that could be coming up, like be coming our way. So I do have a sizable list that I had been working on earlier today, and I think we plug away at it and get it ready at the end.
All right. Any questions for Judd?
If you do, you might have to yell.
Oh, you did good. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Melissa.
Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So I just wanted to take some time to thank all those involved that helped with graduation. And so I hand wrote 33 thank you notes over the weekend. We always take a fair amount of people to help with graduation, but I think this year probably took 3 or 4 times as many people to help. And the people that did help had to help a lot more and put in a lot more time and effort than they probably have ever done before. So I wanted to take that time to list those people for you, so you see that in my board report today. I too have lots of positives to say about distance learning. We finished it strong at the high school. I was really impressed with my staff and how they worked to the very end, even through, I had teachers submitting grades on May 28th, and then a student would turn in 9 assignments at the last minute, so they'd go back through and regrade those students and, reevaluate the grade and make adjustments, which was definitely to the benefit of the student. And so I thought the high school really went a long way. And I'd like to say a big shout out too for the paras too, for all of their one-on-one work that they did with our students with distance learning. So when every teacher and para checked out with me the last week of school, I asked all of them for their feedback on what went well for them personally, what they thought went well for the students, and what they think could be some suggestions for improvement. So we'll use that feedback along with the 2 surveys that we've conducted to work to put together a plan for next year. So as Judd talked about, we're going to begin working on that. And Sherry and Judd and I met once last week, and we're meeting again this Thursday to carry on with what this fall could look like at school. Our school, like I said, we're just carrying on with our planning. Laura continues to work on the master schedule. She is meeting with all of the seniors and their parents via Zoom meetings to talk about their plans for the future, and we'll continue doing that. I would like to recognize our retirees. So we have Al Ruggles, retired in special education, Diane McGee in social studies and math, and Diane Colleen as our media specialist. And I have all of my positions filled with the exception of special ed. So I have 1 special ed position yet to fill. Otherwise, we are staffed for next year. Anybody have any questions?
Nope. Thanks, Melissa.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
And we'll move on to Sherry.
Thank you. Legislatively, I attended a virtual meeting today. There's, I would say maybe I hear that they're going to start another legislative session on Friday. But some of the things that they hit on were preserving funding for special ed, extending renewal deadlines for teacher licenses resulting in, as a result of COVID-19. Fund transfer authority for school boards for fiscal years 20 and 21, reducing youth vaping by raising the age to sell all tobacco products to age 21, local flexibility in the development of distance learning plans, clarity on distance learning and COVID-19 guidelines. So there's a lot of funding flexibility they've given us. And we'll see what they come up with in our meeting today. There was page after page after page of not passed, not included, not passed. They have a lot of work still to do. and legislatively, but they have tackled a few pretty important things for us. Back to school 2021. The commissioner, I listen to the commissioner every Thursday from 4:30 to 5. We can send questions in advance, and then they lump all the questions that are similar together, and they'll answer them collectively. But last Thursday, I think it's important for you to know, and I mentioned this a little in your weekly update, we are to prepare 3 ways for kids to come back to school next year, and I want to elaborate on those a little bit. One is distance learning as we've known it, except in the survey that Melissa referenced, the second survey, we got a ton of great data based on different grade levels of students. Parent feedback was amazing, and teacher feedback. All 3 areas gave us an enormous amount of information. So how I divided my information out in, was it 12, 13 pages, was I highlighted everything in green that worked. That parents said that worked, that students said do this again, and that teachers said this was really effective with building relationships. So we want to include that again. Then I highlighted everything in yellow that was, maybe not so much, or what if we tried this instead, or it'd be great to see teachers more on the videos. People love their teachers, kids love their teachers. So that's all in yellow with little marks. Judd and Melissa and I are going to take all of our notes, and then there's the red. Don't do it again. So I have the green, the yellow, the red. Melissa have their green, yellow, and red with notes. And we're going to take the red and say, okay, we're not doing that anymore, like having multiple platforms. Too many multiple platforms in the elementary. The surveys have given us a ton of feedback so that in our distance learning plan for next year, we're going to incorporate all the things that people have told us, and we got tremendous, like I said, tremendous survey responses. Second is a hybrid program. Hybrid meaning possibly, we go the blue group this week, the green group next week. Blue group's here this week, green group is distance learning. Then we switch them. Then the green group comes into school and the blue group is distance learning. So again, we take everything we've learned about distance learning, apply it to those other weeks, and I'm thinking weeks, not days, because it's better for families. The plan by the week, I've heard people say, how about 2 days on, 2 days off? I don't know. Too hard, I think, for scheduling. But I met with John DeHoo today to figure out how do we do bus routes when half the kids are here and half the kids aren't. So we met, and then Jen and Melissa and I are going to meet again on Thursday with John, with all the class schedules for the high school and the elementary. And we're going to see how do we make that happen, as the Department of Education says, figure out distance learning. And figure out a hybrid system. And then back to school as normal. Normal being with just social distancing, with masks, with continuous cleaning, with the preparedness surveys, the thermometers, all the things we need to bring everyone back. And then, we're not done yet, be ready to turn on a dime if the state says, tomorrow we're coming back in a different way. So that's what we're on for, and we'll do it, and we'll do it very well, taking all the information people have told us into consideration. So there's that. Next, CARES Act money. Kim and I met today. McRae does have $101,000 roughly, and we decided that we're going to put this to the best use, maximize it for our kids, use it for summer school, not this summer, but the next summer, where we want to be able to provide not just, you didn't get these assignments done, come back in June and get them done, and not just, you need some reinforcement because your math skills are weak. but also for enrichment for kids who are already doing well. So we want to have a 3-tiered system. That's part of the way that we can use that CARES Act money, is to take our kids through the next summer and to use some technology. And I believe by providing a very quality summer school program, we can reach the mental health needs of some of the kids too. The building project, Carmel and Julie are going to talk on that in a bit. And the budget, Kim, I've asked Kim if she will present at the time you do the motion, during the discussion part, if that's okay with you guys. Seems like there was something else I was going to talk about. CARES Act. Oh, on the back page of my report, is it, I don't know if you have this there. I think, you know what, we're preparing July 28th through August 11th is the time for posting for the, not posting, but applying for people who want to become board members. And I think this is a great reminder. You know, people say to you, well, what about this, or what do I do as a board member? These are the responsibilities of the school board, and I don't think it's any too early to start letting people know. A perfect example this afternoon, Kate called me with a question. She says, I've had a couple people ask me this question, what should I know about it? And I said, here's what you should know. And if you don't feel like you can explain it, have them call me. And I'd be more than happy to explain it. It wasn't about this, but I think if you just review, and the main board members hire the superintendent, oversee human, financial, and facility resources, as you see throughout your packet tonight. And I'm reading through these partly because of all the people that may be listening here. Set policy and judicial review, legislative information, collective bargaining, community relations, and advocacy for our kids, our students, our school district. So I just put that in there. That was the last thing I almost forgot about that. Any questions for me?
I have one. We go back to school as normal. Any idea how much extra staff it'll take to, and I don't expect an answer.
Yeah, well, we can get close to figuring that out. But first what we have to figure out is who can't come back, right? Who is medically vulnerable as staff for taking care of a medically vulnerable person at home that can't come back. So we look at that. Then we look at the kids that can't come back because they're medically vulnerable or fragile. And then we start looking at, okay, so if we have some of those staff that can't come here, they can just be one of our distance teachers or a distance para. And they can maybe, how do we match that up with the kids that can't come back? Do their licenses match? And then we look at, and how do we flip-flop over the 2-week period of time? Does a 3rd grade teacher, by the way, one of the things that I think is super important to know, kids lose math skills faster than they lose their reading skills. Judd provided us with a great article about summer loss. And it's harder to regain math skills than it is reading skills. So yeah, it's which teachers. So that's, I think we're gonna end up having to go back and survey teachers again and parents and ask them some more questions. Like, would you send your kids back to school? Can you send your kids back to school? And teachers, and staff, which of you can work, which of you can't work. I don't know if you guys heard me, I said to somebody last week, it was in our superintendent meeting. I was talking to Jenna Fromm, our who owns Palmer Buses. She told me that they figured on a 77-passenger bus with social distancing and no 2 children being in the same family, if we're all in the same family, like we could all cram into the first 4 seats of the bus. On a 77-passenger bus, we could haul 11 kids using social distancing guidelines. Imagine the transportation. Thank you for that question. You got a bonus answer there, I'd say. Yes.
If we do the hybrid system, and you've got a science teacher, they will be teaching science every day. That means every week
We'll be teaching science to a group of kids in-house. Who's teaching the science? That's why we have to look at teacher contracts. Plus, I mean, I would think, like you suggested, Scott, that we might need more people.
It would maybe be the teacher that can't come back, I suppose, to.
Right,
school.
but I can see where we really have. Or does one, use science is a good example, because a science teacher that has chemistry and physics can't necessarily, but this is where some of that legislative flexibility comes in. They may allow us to let that person teach an earth science. Yeah, for a while. Right now, we couldn't do that. Or a life science. So those are the three main areas. So maybe this week, and Melissa's got some ideas already for breaking groups like 7th graders into 3 different groups to allow specialty teachers this week maybe to teach the kids here, and next week follow them at home and maybe do some different work with them at home, while another level science teacher teaches this. No one's got the answer yet, but I also want to say that not many have surveyed the people and asked their opinions. So one of the things we're going to hope to find out on Thursday is how do we follow this survey up with more information about how many kids are we even going to have? If we do the hybrid version. If we do the hybrid version. A lot of people are saying, sounds like a lot of time to plan for something you don't know. And then on July 27th, they're going to tell us which one we should do. That'll be nice. Before school starts.
So the parents possibly would have the option to give the hybrid to say, I don't want my kid going back to school and do this and starting, or.
They might, and I don't have any guidance yet. I don't know, Debbie, if you have heard anything, but if can they medically say, here's my doctor's note that says my child has asthma, I don't want him in school. Part of the law is they have to have that doctor's written, the medical condition.
So what would the benefits be of the hybrid system here, other than you would have some face-to-face contact? I just look at a lot more of the negatives, seem like it would be kind of hard to pull off. Financially, a lot of.
The advantage is keeping kids healthy because we can social distance. The goal, and I maybe, thank you, Carmel, for saying that, the goal I maybe should have said earlier is to, instead of having 18 kids in a class, we have 9. And we would bring lunch to the class. Maybe in some cases, the kids would all stay in this class and the teacher would move from room to room. Teachers would move from room to room because then they could clean their hands, but remask, those kinds of things. They talk about, somebody the other day was telling me about, I think it was maybe Judd talking about family, Judd, what'd you call it, family germs or something? If we keep
germ families.
Germ families. And that if we keep the same people together in the classrooms day after day, then hopefully it prevents the spread to other groups. And hence another reason to go week by week rather than 2 days, because it gives time for the germs to die, virus to die, and yeah. I think along with that too, it's not just the education impact, but the else that we're providing the kids during the hybrid version, and then also the mental health piece for the parents. I think that came out through loud and clear in that survey too about parents just can't go. It's like I got to work from home, I got a parent from home, and then I also have to be the teacher from home now. And that mental health piece is really huge. Yeah. One of the things related to that, Debbie, that I saw in the survey, there's really a lot of positives that happen too. I mean, I went into this going, okay, mental health's going to be terrible, technology's going to be terrible, everything's going to be terrible. But some of the kids said some really amazing things. I figured out I could do this. I figured out how much fun it is to work with my dad on math. My parents and I have come up with new ways to do things together. But in regard to that, the kids who do need some mental health services, some of the notes I put on my paper is how do we, and with greater intentionality, hook the kids up with the mental health services we can provide. Not sit back and wait for somebody to call if they're not feeling right about the world, but reach out. the same things, somebody said is, can somebody reach out to my kids, it was an elementary, can somebody reach out to my kids when they're learning some new math, instead of, because we had some parents that said, let's do a homework helpline. Okay, great idea. But instead of waiting for them to call, we should be calling them. Same with mental health issues.
Judd?
I'd also like to add, in response to Carmel's question, there's something to be said about the face-to-face, the in-person event. And, there was definitely a request within the survey data to have more, even if it's reported, to have this kind of interaction, but to be able to have the friendships and that the interaction that we all crave, even if it was from a week on week off basis. And to me, aside from the learning aspect, to have that bit of normalcy back for the kids would probably, and you know what, forget the kids, but everybody, adults too, because we all need it also. But to have that little bit of normal back, it makes such a huge difference for all of us.
All right. Thanks, Judd. Thanks, Sherry. Any other comments? Otherwise, we'll go on to the building committee of Carmel and Julie, and however you guys want to go.
You wanna go first, or you want me? I don't know, would you be able to, maybe that first page of what Chris said, the floor plan, if that's, I don't know, we got something to look at, if you could pull it up. I should have warned you, Kim, but.
And then you can keep going while she gets that ready.
Yeah, so I just thought maybe something to look at here, but we're, I don't know, 95% done with talking about the floor plan at this point. Some of the changes we've maybe had since the last time, I'll talk a little bit about the elementary side, and we should talk about the high school side a little bit, middle school. We've talked about the interiors of the rooms, the preschool, kindergarten rooms are gonna have a combination of carpet and hard surface. We've changed the offices around a little bit, just how they're kind of set up. We did talk a lot about the space in the pre-K and kindergarten, and at this point, we've kind of come up with that we would do an alternate to the bid to have 2 additional classrooms on that wing. We're looking at some of the pre-K numbers and thinking maybe that would be a good option at this point. Added bathrooms to the music room, just for down the road planning. Again, it's better to have it done now than later. We talked about the common space. Yes, yep.
The music room and one other space.
Yeah, the SE room,
Right, in case the adult didn't work, maybe it's an expanded space, but it could be classrooms.
yep,
So this is the music area that Carmel's talking about. And
yep.
let's add a bathroom to that, just in case we need additional space in the preschool area. And this is the CSE and early childhood.
Yep. And then we talked about the commons area, both by how that was gonna be configured. Not a lot of new stuff there. We also talked about up in the elementary area, the kind of commons area there in the middle, and how we could make that the most flexible as possible, along with the media center room there, how we could have the walls and different things incorporated for flexibility. I'm trying to think if we had anything else to the elementary.
Just the whole partition there, which, to add to that flexibility between the media center and the STEM room.
Yeah. Yeah, in the gym area, we kind of went over the hoops, the different options for how the hoops would be laid out and the courts would be laid out. Talking a little color scheme, we tried to incorporate the school colors in as many places as we could and thought it was suitable to do.
As long as it wasn't permanent.
Yep.
It's
So
just
more
too
of a
difficult to
painting.
change, yeah.
Yep. I think that might be about it. We've looked at some different options for the exterior entrances, what that might look like, and we've changed that quite a few times, so.
We would like that fun of the art and nature, look it off at Collins area, so that can get teaching space too.
Yep,
So the plan is to use this as an art space where it's not being used as a lunch.
And then we've got a pretty nice serving kitchen there with its own dish washer space and some storage there, so that should be that, like that whole kitchen.
And Joe, do you want to talk about the middle school now?
sure, or, yeah,
Yeah, well, we've got,
Which is right here,
yeah,
this
there's
area.
a bit of center there. So, we've got, what's that, the 6, 7, 8, so there's, the 7th, 8th graders, I'm guessing are doing more moving about the building, probably than the 6th graders would be doing.
Actually, they'd all be, this is their area.
Yeah, right, and then we got the little bit of commons area, with collectible, there's all kind of space for them. And then, then the more picking the sign things over which are existing. We're gonna split that one into two, I think, in the classroom.
Yeah, we did some other changes with that the other day because we
Okay.
did, got science rooms without, why are we, no, let's,
Yeah, we've got, I think we've got 2 PLC meetings left, and we got a few like that. So, the kitchen's gonna be fantastic. The kitchen's gonna be in this whole space. Where we're sitting right now. Expansive for there.
I was in a 2-hour and 45-minute kitchen meeting on Thursday where we talked about every single piece of equipment. Every piece is labeled, I think where the highest number is 95. And it's labeled if it's gonna be a new piece, or if it's coming from east, or if it's coming from west, and where's it gonna go here exactly. So yeah, this is the area for the kitchen. It's gonna be awesome.
The theater's gonna be fantastic. They showed us some interior finishes and things that are suggested for that. And there is, if I'm correct, an adult unit on that orchestra bit.
Yes, true.
That may not happen if you may have to be put
To see what it ends up costing all this.
Right. The space will stay the same.
Want to talk about the back?
Yeah, we've got this workshop back there, we've got prop storage, we've got dressing rooms, just pretty basic stuff. Overhead doors, we do big stuff in and out. Maybe up on the side there. We got a receiver in the back there too. That area is between, yeah, the receiver's right in there, right. And then the new ag edition is up there on top of ag there. So that's,
The new classroom.
right, and then we're also clearing out in the welding shop where we're clearing out that lock and all of that stuff in here. And getting rid of that equipment, so that opens that all up. That's more, that's good. That's good, if it's not.
We're gonna have a little door coming out here for a pad for like building small buildings like fish houses, tiny houses, those kinds of things. That'll be right out here.
Right, and then we got the small animal pen space on the north side, we're gonna put that open that door on the north. Instead of the east.
This will be a grow lab.
Oh,
Might even me, Jesse. Oh, it was you.
Time up. Oh,
there you go.
yeah, there we go.
We're up here, yes.
Yeah. Then back by the auditorium, and sometimes the auditorium off that high school commons is that long space there. There are some offices there that the kids will be accessing there, right?
This one right there,
Right.
bathrooms.
Yeah, I think they're there. And when then by the front entrance, when you come in on the east, we'll have a nice toilet coming in there, a way to direct people where they need to be, and also kind of a place for supervision there.
I did get a call FYI the other day from a woman who wanted to know will my kids be safe when I drop them off at school? So they be safe getting around my car. So if I could just interject,
Yeah.
this will all be the bus area. We'll still have parent drop off here for kids. There. And this will be exclusively parent drop off with no other traffic in that area. Will be a roadway that comes up like this, only for parents dropping off. The only other people coming here will be teachers who will be parking down here and then walking to the building.
Let's see, then we've got the new fitness center there, which was some of the latest things we worked on. Lots of glass there, a nice space for the people to work out there. And of course, we've got new locker rooms there, and the guest locker rooms, taking care of some of the boys, girls, and here's a small guest locker room.
It's been a while since we talked
I know, some of those things, I wasn't around. Great. One thing that you did mention, Brenda, that we didn't spend a whole lot of time on there is the parking. Probably will touch that.
Yeah. All this over here, yeah. But this is all gonna be very controlled, very controlled. Teacher parking down here, teacher parking here, and then we'll drive through.
And I believe it's a one-way drive,
One-way
correct?
thing.
Yeah.
Great. And on the exterior, we're working with some pots of cone and things to designate, when people come to this building, they're gonna know where those entrances are. For the elementary side and the high school, so we're trying to avoid some of the confusion of all the people on where people go. That should be. Good enough. They're giving us some interior color. I want to see different suggestions, that's kind of what we've been working on the last couple of years as well. And then a whole lot of stuff about the kitchen.
Pardon me?
A whole lot of stuff about the kitchen. Well, then we reconfigured the main offices too. I mean, that gets to once in a while, you know, that is a kitchen.
Now, I mean, you can't do anything, you've got the outside walls.
You're right, because that's. And then they're bringing over as much equipment as they can for the regular schools, for the kitchen especially. We're doing a job of tangling all those things and not very considered that I'm over the job. But of course, the one gymnasium will be the storm shelter. That's this one. You can show what the two classrooms will be added on to, we're going on that. We're not sure. It's going for that.
Yeah, and I think we'll have two more, probably two more
Yeah.
PLC meetings and
But that's just the fine things and stuff.
did you guys have any discussion more about the special ed area?
Again, we tried to reconfigure it, but instead of them adding public at more square footage, to accomplish that because of the way things lay out there, you have to actually grow the building, and you said it's just not enough room to do that. So we're gonna go with that raised ceiling, raised roof there, and a two-story lighting over there, and raised two-story.
I think some of the functional stuff doesn't show us. Very excited to hear that we're excited to get and use the input from the parents about distant learning, because many times we don't hear from our parents, but we really heard loud and clear from our special ed parents that this is not okay. And I was sure hoping that we could address that and come back with them this step, and I'm disappointed that we weren't able to do that. But yeah, we can add 2 classrooms for PNK. I know how it's laid out, but on the other hand,
Right.
the answer that we got was because of timing the last time too.
Jen and Melissa and I, last week met at the CLC in Cosmos. All redone. And we had the opportunity to walk into a special ed suite, all the rooms there are special ed suites. That's similar to this, with a large room, like the room here for a teacher desk and a learning station, a room here with a larger table for students. On the other side of the room, just like this one is 2 rooms here and then 2 rooms there. That can be the teacher office. It could be a place for a one-on-one like Jane Brewer does with speech language. But there can be there's a moderate sized room there that could be there's just so many ways. And when I walked in there, when this is what we're talking about, and it's what Chris was talking about, and how many different buildings he's built where there's a special ed suite that works so well for teacher licenses and things like that. I don't know, Jen, do you want to say anything about that for elementary? Once you saw the Cosmos, but it's pretty dynamic.
Wasn't the concern more that everybody's walking into that main area to get to the offices, which is disruptive for some of the kids? Is that still what's happening?
I don't know. But this can also be set up with partitions based on what the particular teacher's needs are and what the particular kids' needs are. I don't want to say that this is the incredible flexibility with that space is what's good for kids and teachers.
And the supervision aspect.
Yeah, I think Chris really stressed that
in the buildings he's worked with is they've liked that option as a supervision idea. And then also all the materials are all in the same spot as well. And the feedback he's gotten from those schools is it's worked well for him.
I would just like to ask if we could have this posted so that parents could look at that. And then if they have thoughts or concerns about it, since it's still in a draft proposal, they can still share their concerns or thoughts, suggestions. And we talk about the parents being their child's first and primary teacher and whatnot. And yeah. So if they have thoughts, I really think that we need to listen. And not only just listen, but act on what some of them are saying, because again, many times we don't hear anything from people, and we're hearing things from those parents. So, Doug, were you going to say something? I don't know if you were or not.
Yeah, I was just going to add that, you know, having that common area, you know, is a whole lot different. In my opinion, it's a whole lot different thing than a child walking into a special education classroom where there's already a number of people there. If somebody wants to create havoc or make a scene, it's going to happen regardless of what spaces. And then, you know, to me, the location of it is really ideal because, you know, we try to put into the classrooms as much as we possibly can because that's what's restricted for the kids. And, you know, the suite being smack dab in the middle of that 1 through 5 area, you know, we really can't get a whole lot more inclusive of a space as far as having easy access for the kids to be able to go into it. It would be one thing, to me, it would be one thing if it was a special ed suite that was down, like in that, in the preschool kindergarten wing, that we had it completely isolated away from the majority of the students. That would be one thing. And, you know, and really we have really good support from Jane and Teresa, our special ed director, to support the way the plan is looking. And, you know, I'm really happy with the way it's looking and actually to get the eyeballs on type of scenario that we had with the CLC. It's just really exciting to see what the potential is.
I just don't want to dismiss the parents, especially our special ed kids. It's just happening that I think we're thinking for the first time we're not going to involve in the entire conversation. It's sometimes hard to realize why things have happened certain ways, but not everything's under our control. We've got some structural issues we're dealing with as far as students and kids do, but exactly what we want. So that's just the nature of the piece we're doing the remodel versus study.
And we did talk about
But this
that.
is layout.
Yeah.
This is new. This is not a remodel. That is a new piece that if we would have listened up front, perhaps we could have done things a little bit. So there's still time to change it. And if we get if we can afford to do the 2 additional classrooms on that other wing, they can be used for anything. I mean, you have to remember that we put labels on the rooms right now, other than things like science room, which aren't going to be moved around. But those labels, a lot of those labels are on there, so the staff, the administration knows we haven't forgotten something. You know, let's make sure we have this person's office that maybe don't want to forget that we need that space. So over the course of the way teaching and education works over the next decades, those rooms can be anything they need to be. But for now, of course, I think the special ed suite is fantastic. Space. They've got their own restroom, they've got breakout spaces, they're right adjacent to the media center and the STEM rooms. There's a lot of opportunities for these kids in that space for a lot of nice one-on-one teaching and access to materials and everything.
And we talked about, we saw some different layouts from the architects and from Chris's thoughts on it. And this is what we thought suited us the best with our needs.
And we're up against their budget, so
Yep.
Make sure all the students, as they start pre-K and go through the building, are getting spaces that work for them and everybody feels good. That's why there's 3 common areas for each of those sections where everybody can live in a common space. Give them some ownership of their space if they're part of it. So put that and post it on the website then, this plan, the grant?
For sure, and I will also, before we do that, I will meet with Nancy and Jane, and we'll make sure that they fully understand how this works, and maybe we take a drive over to Cosmos and see if they can
All right, no discussion items tonight, so we'll move on to business items, 8.1. I'll make a motion to approve the fiscal year 2021 budget. All right, is there a second? Discussion?
Just have a couple questions. In looking at our enrollment, it looks like we've dropped 29 kids since November, which is, if you figure around 11,000 per kiddo, that's over $300,000. But I noticed that we have an increase in revenues coming in. Where are those coming from then?
That's because, just because kids leave for partial of the year, they can take the whole amount with them. And so it's, and I estimate at the very beginning, very low to accommodate for that. And so as they updated the Mars data, it's actually coming in higher than what I estimated at the beginning of the year. So it's still kind of balancing out a little bit. So when stuff like that happens, we're still okay. I do about 3 students a grade lower than what we actually expect. Now, for this coming year, we actually did even less than that because we don't know how many people are going to open enroll their kids elsewhere. If we have to do distance learning, we've heard rumors that that's going to happen, and so we went even lower. That's what, and even estimating, like I estimated a lot lower, like 6 almost per grade, 5 to 6 per grade. But because we have such a low number of seniors going out, the 6th grade class coming in as 7th graders, they aren't counted as one. For the funding formula, they are now 1.2 in the funding formula, so that is going to increase our revenue quite a bit. And then the kindergartners coming in outnumber our seniors going out by about 20 students, so even though we're estimating low, we still have enough coming in that it actually makes us feel like we're going to have even more than we did this year. And then we try to really cut any expenses we could anywhere and try to maximize that stuff, just in case we do have a bunch more kids leave than we expect, or we're going to keep our final number from our data too. So, and this is pretty rough, but just give us a start.
So will we see them next month, like what's proposed for each class? Because the school starts in August.
You mean,
Like the numbers per class, like we've seen in the past?
Yeah, like this again.
I think we've gotten before, like how many kids per grade
Yeah.
and whatnot.
Judd just got me today in elementary,
Okay.
and Melissa just finished today the master schedule for the high school, so you want that next month? Like
Yeah.
where they all land?
Yeah, no, just the numbers per.
Oh, I thought you wanted to know how many in each
No.
classroom.
No.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think it's highly likely to change in the month of July, but we can give you numbers. You know what, the numbers would probably be the same as they are right now, because not many people are talking. I know on Judd's stuff he gave me today, there's this family's leaving, we think, this one's coming in, we think, but they haven't filled out formal paperwork or requested records yet.
There's very few customer records in enrollment information, even in July, into August, when it starts coming in, these numbers start.
By the August meeting, I would say for sure we're gonna have some, especially since we start the 17th.
No, I was just thinking, we're planning for staff and whatnot, if we need more teachers or less teachers or whatever, so it'd be nice to be able to see that.
Okay, any more discussion? Otherwise, hearing none, in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. 8.2.
I'll make the motion to approve 8.2 as presented.
All right, we have a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. Discussion? It's the same as it is every year, so.
and they've got their insurance in place. It's if they have their insurance in place.
State high school.
No, the one that offers like this.
Oh, we're
Oh,
on
we're on 8.2.
the, yeah. So if there's no discussion, it's a roll call vote, so,
We need the school board member last year, if they had to do a meeting or something.
oh, that has to be in the motion. Yeah, and I did have to do something, so, anybody else want to be honest? All right, I'll do it another year. Okay, if everybody's okay with that, do a roll call vote. I'll start with Julie,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Debbie,
Yes.
Carmel,
Yes,
myself is a yes. So all in favor, resolution is passed and adopted. All right, thank you. 8.3. Now we're talking Raymond Rockets.
So I'll make that a motion to allow the block exclusive baseball diamond, provided they have a fairness plan, and I'm gonna add that meets MDH and CDC guidelines and insurance coverage.
What's the last thing you said,
Yeah.
and insurance coverage?
And insurance.
What's a
Minnesota Department of Health and
Oh.
CDC, said that this is what that means.
and insurance? Okay. We have motions, or a second?
I'm second.
Discussion? All right, hearing none, in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. 8.4.
Make the motion to join this.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Discussion, I asked Kim, I called her today about this, and I'll let her give us.
This is just to keep our options open on our liability insurance and cyber liability and different things. I just found out this morning that our regular insurance company just got the renewal on that, and so we're gonna go over that in the next couple of days. And this is a co-op of schools across the state. Start off with 11 schools, and it's expanded out. It's through a company, Gallagher's, who kind of operates it. And they, with their co-op, they can get really good coverage for a lot less money most of the time. And they deal with schools regularly, so they understand cybersecurity. They understand, like I called them about building risk. What do we have to do when we have this building going on? And they told me that we don't care if you come with us, but just make sure you do this and this and this, and you can do a list. Well, then when I called our regular insurance agent, who doesn't deal with schools except pretty much just us, I was given the exact opposite information. And so that made me really, really nervous when we're dealing with multi-millions of dollars on several things. So to be able to join this, we have to have board action resolution. So I wanted to get this on a board meeting, so we didn't need to have a special meeting quick at the end of the month. And if it turns out that our regular insurance is a much better deal, we'll go with that. This is better, we'll go with that. But this just keeps the flexibility available without the emergency meeting later on.
Price difference at all?
I don't have the numbers yet.
One of the key things I think Kim said is it's very exclusive to schools. And so they really are good at that initial 11, it was 8, and then I think it was 11, found was you talk this language, and everybody's talking the education language. And that's why when this first started, there were other schools watching going, can we be in next? Can we be in? And then the Mr. Board was like dealing with all these schools that wanted to come in. And I don't know how many are in now, but I think that's one of the key factors is it's all about education.
And there's 9 schools, we're one of 9, so I'm getting this year, or at least getting estimates, and COVID-19 for everything. Normally they would be done by now, but with all of that and trying to figure all that out, there's a little behind, so. Yeah.
Okay. Then we have to go back to the State High School League and have Carmel read that resolution
I was
because
wondering about that.
I see you kind of just stayed quiet there. But let's finish this where we're on first. Is there any other discussion? All right, hearing none, Julie, I'm gonna ask you to read that page 39. Thoughts. I'm sorry, it's appendix B here. Yeah, it says 39.
What resolution for membership of this?
Yes.
Resolution for membership in the Minnesota Insurance Scholastic Trust. Whereas the school board of School District 2183 has authority to participate with other units of government for the purpose of jointly providing casualty, property, and other protections with self-insurance and purchase insurance. Whereas, pursuant to this authority, the board has received and reviewed an agreement for the district participation in self-funded insurance and excess insurance casualty and property pool, known as the Minnesota Insurance Scholastic Trust, MIS. And whereas certain formats and procedures are involved in the prompt and efficient operation and administration of this. Now therefore be it, and it is hereby resolved, number one, the board approves the district's membership in this and adopts this intergovernmental agreement as presented in number two. Number two, the board hereby authorizes and directs its chairman to execute a signature page of the list intergovernmental agreement as presented, and any amendments thereto are directed the district to inform as attached to as exhibit.
What's that?
Well, the membership agreement. I'm saying that we've already been approved. This is all we need to do. Okay, so we have board member,
Yep.
it's not,
There, Julie made the motion. Yeah, Kim will fill that out for us.
yeah.
So, well, thanks for reading that.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, a roll call vote again. So Julie,
Yes.
Scott? Yes. Debbie?
Yes.
Carmel?
Yes.
And I am a yes, so resolution passed and adopted. Just, staying with what we normally do, Carmel, can you read that resolution?
Yeah.
From the State High School League,
Is
please?
the top part in the box, is that even, or all of it?
I think just this first page should cover it all. I mean, we already accepted it, but I think just read it, then it's good to read it all. Unless any changes are on.
This page, good.
Yep.
Resolved that the governing board of school district number 2180, county of Chippewa, state of Minnesota, delegates the control, supervision, and regulation of interscholastic athletic and fine art events referred to in Minnesota statute section 128C01 to the Minnesota State High School League, and so hereby certifies to the State Commissioner of Education as provided for by Minnesota statute. Further resolved that the high school listed below, McRae High School, is authorized by this, the governing board of said school district or school, to renew its membership in the Minnesota State High School League and participate in the approved inter-school activities sponsored by said league and its various subdivisions. Further resolved that this governing board hereby adopts the Constitution, bylaws, rules, and regulations of said league and all amendments thereto as the same as are published in the latest edition of the league's official handbook. on file at the office of the school district or as appears on the LEAP website as the minimum standards governing participation in said LEAP-sponsored activities, and that the administration and responsibility for determining student eligibility and for the supervision of such activities are assigned to the official representatives identified by this governing board. Signing the resolution for membership affirms that this governing board has viewed the Why We Play training video, which defines the purpose and value of education-based athletic and activity programs and assists school communities in communicating a shared common language. Member schools must develop and publicize administrative procedures to address eligibility suspensions related to code of student conduct violations for students participating in activity programs by member schools. The above resolution was adopted by the governing board of this school district and is recorded in the official minutes of said board and hereby is certified to the State Commissioner of Education as provided by them.
Thank you. Does anybody have any reason to revisit that? All right, thank you. Sorry I missed that. We'll move on to 8.5.
I make a motion to approve this second reading of policy 550.
Okay. We have motions or a second? I'll second it. All right. Sherry, you want to give us a quick overview, please?
Yeah, it's a huge, huge policy, but there's nothing in here that we can change or personalize other than who are the names people should contact, so we did that. This is also an important policy that as administrators, we need to make sure that our parents are aware of what is private data for their child. It defines what the data is for their child. You know, when you go to a wrestling match or a basketball game, it shows this is the kid, this is how tall they are, this is their grade. That's personally identifiable information. And there are parents who could say, I don't want my kid's height on a basketball program. I don't want my kid's grade on the basketball program. There may even be people say, I don't want my kid's name on a basketball or football program because biological dad from 16 years ago is looking for him, or something like that. So in my whole career, I maybe in 24 years had 2 people say, I don't want any information on my child out there in the public. 2, and one of them was for a case similar to what I just said. On page 515-21, it talks about military recruiting. One of the requirements that's relatively new is that we're required every year. If the Air Force says, give me the names of all your seniors, we have to give them the names of all our seniors and addresses. So there could be a parent who says, do not give any of my kids' information to anybody in the military. So we need to respect that. There are pieces in here as I read through this last week that really are about the safety of the child. If we have records that show that there was some research on some abuse, that there was social services here, something like that, we have the right to make a decision for what's safest for the kids, safest for the students. This is a really big and deep and important policy. It's also, again, one that is out there because we need to keep bringing it to the forefront so people are aware of it. This, in these days and times, very much a protection for the students. And we did insert the names of the people in here, who they would contact. And this is something that in July, when we're working on student handbooks, we need to make sure that all of our information is correct.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Otherwise, hearing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Meetings coming up. A new one on here is special board meeting Monday, July 6th, approval of the design development. Then we'll still, right, have a regular school board meeting on the 13th. Okay, at 6 p.m. And then August 10th after that at 6 p.m. And Kim will keep us up to speed on if we're going to do it like this or where it's going to be. So, other than that, I'll look for motion to adjourn. So move. Second?
Second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. We're adjourned at 7:20 p.m. Thanks everybody for watching.